All right, everybody. We are back with the 2018 U.S. Star Wars CCG National Championship, and you are looking at Brian Mischke playing light side Watch Your Step deck, and his opponent at the top of your screen is Brian Fred. So we have a Brian versus Brian. Um, oh wait, he wanted a different name. I think he told me Retwin 316. Pretend you didn't see that. I should have been better about that. My bad. He's Dark Side Map. Apparently Reed Smith wanted a different name. They both wrote like hyphens next to the streaming name they wanted, but apparently they were arrows, and they wanted their screen names. Everyone else didn't care. For anyone who's interested in that. All right. So now we won't have a Brian drama. We have Retwin versus Brian. We also have a Chris matchup going on with Chris Kogelin versus Chris Werfs. Right now, while they're shuffling, I'll go ahead and give a little update for anyone who hasn't seen on the forums. We've got two 5-1 players, Tom Hade and Pete. And Tom is about to play his Court Trooper Beatdown versus Pete's Watch Your Step, and we saw both those decks on stream earlier. I think the Watch Your Step will probably have a hard time running away from the full-scale alert tactical support shenanigans that Tom's got going on. Even though smugglers can move, Luke will get trapped and beat down, and apparently earlier, Brian Fred, who's playing Throne Room, told me earlier that he played Luke and Qui-Gon to a site and lost the game on turn 4. He took 50 something overflow to just a whole ton of troopers and lost to Tom Hade's deck on turn 4. So yeah, we've seen what those troopers can do. I think Tom looks in a good position to beat Pete in that, I would guess, but they're the only 5-1 players right now. Jeremy DePaulo and Steven Slucci are both 4-2. Both the players you're watching, Brian Fred and Brian Mischke, are 4-2. Gogolin and Werfs are 4-2, and Joel Pittman is 4-2 and was pared down. So we have 9 players at 4-2 or better going into the 6th game. Looks like Brian grabs the shuttle with the interrupt and pulls out Ozzel. Mischke is playing squadron assignments, most likely like my father before me in Walkling. And Brian also pulls Finalizer. And Brian's effect, as we saw earlier, was Indoor Shield. So Charlie thinks Mischke's going to take the tournament. He started 1-2, and then he played Reed in back-to-back games and beat Reed in both those games. And now he's up to 4-2, and now he's playing B-Fred. So if he can win this and go to 5-2, that'd be a pretty great turnaround for him. I think map versus step really can go either way, but I think I would prefer to be the map player in general. It's hard to say post errata, but I still think map has lots of beats and options, and all right, a lot of love for Mischke in the Twitch chat. Brian Fred looks for his Starkiller base site, which he must have activated, and he gives up a verify. I mentioned this earlier in this matchup, though we ended up having sort of a goofy Watch Your Step versus sort of a map blaster. It's going to look a little different than this, but sort of the general game plan, if you're watching this on YouTube and so you didn't watch that other game, or you weren't with our stream earlier, the sort of game plan is lights kind of hoping they can get a ship in front of the finalizer and spin and draw High Destiny and clear it off and force Dark to pay for drains, and Dark's going to try and survive in space. set up a lot of early damage, if they can set up Kylo and Saber and maybe the Finalizer Drain before Light can deal with it, and start getting ahead of Light side, start doing a lot of damage so they can get an early advantage and then kind of push that advantage. And Light's gonna have to play around that while trying to keep Luke alive, to keep Matt flipped on its front, assuming Luke is the agent. The other possible agent in the deck is Chewie, but usually you wouldn't make Chewie your agent because there's only one of him and he's really easy to kill, and so you kind of you let Luke be the agent and he loses immunity, but you stack smugglers with him so you don't ever have to forfeit him, and you've got weapons protection and stuff. Alright. Brian Fred's doing lots of hand movements. He generally, his style of play is distracting towards opponents. He likes to talk a lot when they're thinking and make jokes, and it's fun, but it can also be a bit distracting. And I imagine if Mischke's on camera and there's a lot of pressure on this game, we'll see how he responds to that. One thing Mischke might be looking for would be try and get a beat down of his own if he can use some of the tricks like Sorry About the Mess and Clash and Run Luke Run and Nabrin and things like that to see if he can get in a beat down of his own at some point. Looks like Mischke pulls Kessel. Brian gets out his Watch Your Step shield and his Grabber shield. And he's thinking about something else. And Charlie makes a joke in the chat that makes me dig out the deck list. Thanks. I don't know what. I don't think, no, Brian's not playing the farm, because you wouldn't, if you have the farm card, you start it, you don't ever float that. So he's just doing a no farm step. I prefer the farm card, and I know Tom Kelly prefers a farm card, but I also know Brian Fred hates putting the farm card in step. He doesn't like giving that extra battleground. I like having that because you can put Luke in the middle and threaten Run Luke Run. Gives an extra place if you need to retreat to. I don't feel like it's much of a liability, and I feel like those use pulls are great. The extra guaranteed force is great. But very good players have disagreed and do disagree on this, so that is another good difference to point out. We have seen the farm card version earlier, though it was sort of a strange version, Pete's. This is a non-farm version, so we'll see how that goes. It doesn't look like Mischke got any of his activation early, which is unfortunate for him. No Wisas, no speaks, so he's a little bit choked right now, but Brian Fred also didn't play Jakku or the Starkiller base site turn 1, so both are kind of off to a slow start. And Brian Fred gives up a verify to pull a Starkiller base site that's in his hand, and he plays that, and he plays the bridge from hand. So now B Fred's rolling, and he also has Mischke grab out Kylo and Saber as he plays the shuttle. So the shuttle pulls, which he pulled with the interrupt last turn, pulls Kylo, and Kylo effect I will finish what you started pulls the Saber, and Kylo is also going to get a used pile pull, and then he'll play Ozzel for free. So he'll pay for both the shuttle and for Kylo. Total cost of 7, and then he'll use pile pull. Charlie thinks he might play. Oh no, Charlie is right. Mischke does play the Lars farm, and I must be allowed to speak. He floated it, and I don't understand that. I think that's a mistake. Like I mentioned earlier, I'd rather. Well, I was talking about floating basically Luke effect versus Squawson, because that's usually the choice, and you always start farm card. and sometimes Tom prefers to start to float Squasin, and sometimes I prefer to float the Luke effect because I'd rather pay 8 for Luke than 6, but be able to be guaranteed to match up my ships and then also have the farm and get used pile pulls. I think giving up those used pile pulls is crazy because you can use tunnel visions, you can use and you can use the used pile pulls to help you find like my father or the saber, that sort of thing. And so yeah, he apparently it is a farm watcher step. It just didn't start the farm effect. Yeah, Tom agrees. He said he'd float like my father right here. He does float squashing on certain matchup ground against ground decks, and I think Court is a deck where he likes to have the cheaper Luke and guaranteed saber, so he floats squashing. But yeah, I do question that decision to float the farm effect. And I think he probably is as well when he didn't get his activation. Having that guaranteed 2 extra force could be pretty nice right now. Especially, yeah, well, and especially because he doesn't play the Jedi Council Chamber. So most decks that don't play the farm card, most Watcher Step decks, like Brian Fred's Watcher Step, plays both Boss Nass Chamber and Wisas. Or Boss Nass Chamber, Wisas, and then Speaks and Jedi Council, because you need the activation. And farm cards don't play the Speaks and Jedi, usually it's just the Boss Nass Chamber. Well, Brian, because he has the farm, doesn't have the Speaks Jedi Council, but that means if he doesn't get the farm, he's going to be fairly force choked here. So, Queso adds in he likes running the light side Kashyyyk system in his Watcher Step, and he runs a new secret base over Walkling, so he can pay 2 to pull Kashyyyk. And all right, so looks like Mischke got the farm effect. Must have drawn into it turn 1. Maybe he had it, but I don't know why he wouldn't have played it. So I think he drew into it turn 1 when he pulled Kessel, verified and saw it was in there and drew that up. So now he could play Luke for 6. So it ends up not being a factor in this game, other than the fact that right now he doesn't have farm out and he's too far short. Oh no, he control tunneled for it. So all right then. I was talking about Queso's amazing Kashyyyk, a new secret base tech, and got distracted and missed the tunnel vision for the farm card. Alright, so Luke comes down and gets a use pile pull. Lando comes down and gets a use pile pull. I'm assuming at some point he'll pull Luke's Saber from reserve, unless it was one of the cards in the force pile and he went for the farm pull thinking he could just pull the Saber at some point, and he'd rather have that to get out the farm and the second pull this turn. We'll see. He spins, and Brian grabs it. And like I mentioned, one of Light's main plans this game is going to be to get a ship and spin and try and take out the ship, and it might take multiple battles to do that, because and chewing through multiple commands, because Dark will have fodder and can lose a couple dudes, and so Brian grabbing spin is a play to prevent that. Is I'm gonna try and run you out of spins while I still have dudes in space. And the other thing is the Jakku system limiting, if Chewie isn't there, Chewie's the only resistance dude in the deck. If Chewie's not there, that's always caps at 1 even without command. And so if Brian doesn't have spins, he just can't draw multiple destinies there. And so Brian grabbing that spin is saying, I'm gonna go to Jakku and I'm gonna hopefully not have to lose a bunch of dudes to attrition because you're not spinning. So Brian draws his last force, and then Luke affects a card back down. We don't have battle plan out, but right here Brian goes ahead and pulls battle plan, and Fred can pay 3 to drain 2 if he decides. Right now he's got a trooper and Kylo and Saber and just a Ozzel on the landed shuttle, just a mess of stuff, while Lando and Luke sit in the cantina. No, I think he used pile pulled with Luke. Um, Justin is amazed at a watch your step with no speaks. I think Justin also is another player who doesn't farm watch your step, but just does speak and only has two Tatooine sites to go to. Um, like I said, a totally valid opinion, um, but I do prefer the use pile pulls myself. All right, so now Brian's got some decisions to make this turn, whether he sets up Finalizer, and it's going to depend on what's in his hand, but whether he sets up Finalizer, whether he has some stuff to make a run at the Cantina. Um, it'll probably be one of those two things, though it's possible he just draws a couple and saves a couple, and not just saves a couple, but saves a good chunk of a 10 force or something so he can come down really hard next turn. But I think if he has the cards for it, it's more likely that he plays. Um, so he does accelerate, so it does seem. Alright, and he grabs strategic reserves because he doesn't have Hux, but he does want to get that out. So now that kind of takes some pressure off if he's got a non-unique dude. Though he does have one at the site, he's probably got a non-unique dude in hand, and that'll let him cancel the Cantina drain at 3, or it might even intimidate Brian into not paying 3 for it, and then he can save the trooper. Queso is trying to decide to endorse putting Kashyyyk and a new secret base into Watch Your Step, and Justin's like, no, no, Kashyyyks in our blood, not in our decks. Poor Queso, all alone, forever alone, Queso. Um, so Beefred just deploys some more stuff on the shuttle, um, and he's just drawing some more. Since the pressure's off because he's got strategic out, he's solidifying that site, and he'll probably go to space soon, but there's no push to do so. I'm checking out Mischke's list, and I do not see a Menace Fade, so that drain on Jakku is gonna be a pretty persistent 2 the whole game, except for if he ever controls it, or possibly takes the Jakku system and does It's a Hit, but otherwise it should just be pretty consistent damage, and that's what map needs to do, is just hitting that consistent early damage and just keep that pressure on. John Michael asks who's winning. It's a good question. I think it's a tough match, and I favor Branfred. Notices the Nabern in the deck, a few maneuvers. I do favor mapping it. I'm not sure I like how much Branfred's stacked at that site. But he probably has Ellis's, and I think if you're Mischke, you wait to grab Ellis and you It's a Hit it. You're digging for It's a Hit with used pile pulls and stuff. I think it's still fairly even. It's obviously early. They're both getting set up. I might slightly favor Mischke's start, which may tilt the match to even. It's hard to tell. Yeah, Tom Kelly also thinks it's pretty even right now. Justin asked Justin asked about the anti-reserves cards, and yeah, we saw Pete Watch Your Step play it, where he did use it twice in the game to place 2 non-unique troopers lost as soon as they were stacked, but it still canceled the drain. I'm not sure it was worth the deck slot, but Um, yeah, the people in chat are saying it seemed underwhelming too. And and yeah, so Mischke sets up Mirax and Pulsar Skate, and I think he doesn't want to preemptively move to Jakku. It depends on what's on his hand. I probably wouldn't be doing that with Pulsar Skate. If he had Outrider, Dash, and like another dude, so that he could moving and get up to like power 11 and subtract 11 from Brief Fred, and like I think going preemptively to Jakku would be good there, or even Captain Han and a spin in hand or something. But he didn't, so he set up safely at the system so he can drain free. And now Fred drops the finalizer and Hux, and he's going to use pile pull. And I don't think either of them drained. Oh no, Mischke did drain, and the non-unique trooper was used to cancel that. And then this turn I don't. No, maybe Fred did drain because there's an Ellers on his lost. It's hard to see where their losts are because they both keep them in weird positions. It's I guess a rule of Star Wars cards that if your name is Brian, you have to put your lost pile in a weird spot. And so anyway, the Mischke set up safer at Tatooine so he can drain free, and Brian Fred now set up his own space, and he's deploying another trooper. He had to pay 1 because of Yavin Sentry, and then he's free otherwise to the First Order leader site. And now he takes off the shuttle, which has Ozzel and someone else on it, maybe Thrawn. And he plays Dark Time to activate 1 so that he can ship dock, which he paid 1 to ship dock, but that you don't need to because it can embark. It can hold that First Order shuttle as a thing, so he could have just embarked the shuttle for free, disembarked Thrawn for free, and then disembarked the shuttle if he wanted the shuttle off for more power, and rather than having it on for the immunity. I think that was, I don't know, maybe something Beefred just didn't know about the deck. I know he hasn't played map much because he at Indoor he was saying he hasn't really played it much at all, but I guess he has over the last like month preparing for this. So Fred, I guess that's the start of his lost pile now. Fred cancels 1 with the non-unique dude, the Cantina drain, and then he loses 1 to the Tatooine drain, and it looks like it was a trooper assault. Now there's... Whoa! The smoking Gungan just appeared. I didn't... Is that it for yeah, I'm guessing this is probably all the ships Beefred plays. If I look, wow. Fred's playing 8 non-unique troopers to cancel a bunch of drains. Yeah, those are the only ships. So, and it's exactly what you would guess in a non-alert build. Yeah, we got 2 Brians on stream, and another one just showed up. One that has not been around in years. So yeah, if Step can get, first of all, they can go to Kessel here, which is nice. And neither of those ships can reach it, so he'll get that Kessel drain for a turn. So Mischke does Kessel and moves the ship over, and he adds another smuggler with Lando and moves Luke over. So now he's threatening drains of 3-2-2 to Brian's 2-2. So he's going for a damage race here. Brian to mitigate. I keep saying Brian. Hopefully it's obvious who I'm talking about, but Retwin to mitigate that is either going to need to Ellis or get in a Trooper Beatdown. Phasma's still not on table, and of course she's one of his best characters. And then there's always the Mara P59 Dr. E stuff that are great as well. So but Fred's going to need to react here as even if he cancels a drain quite often, he's still doing 2 and 2 to 2 and 2, and and sometimes that he doesn't cancel, Light will be ahead. So and then the other thing Light can do, especially, is stick a ship at Tatooine. Falcon has hyperspeed to go all the way down to 1, and so he can get a ship over to Starkiller Base, whether that's a Falcon or another ship with a few maneuvers was in there, and so is the Leslomi Elors that add to hyperspeed, so that he can basically fly over to Starkiller Base and threaten another drain or two. And I think that's basically what Mischke's going to want to do is Kessel, couple of sites, as many sites as he can safely do in Starkiller Base, and try and race, keeping in mind that he can control tunnel and do those from Lost Pile and all that stuff. Um, okay, so who is USA Gamer Girl? I see you on the stream all the time, like whenever they're streaming, I'm participating, and I love it. You have tons of good comments and observations. I have no idea who you are. Um, that needs Brian Harold back in her life, apparently. Probably a lot of women feel that way. Um, so Luke's alone, but Mischke probably has dodge, and um, it looks like Brian Fred's firepower is out, so Mischke would lose too. But he's okay spreading, because Brian has to come with enough stuff to get through his tricks and that sort of stuff. Whoa. Yeah, Dan Kim hasn't played since he like won Worlds in 2010, but he knows what's up. All right, so we had another drain, and Fred's trying to decide his line of attack. I think, is he gonna deploy? Does he have an Ellis? How can he? Where's he gonna maximize his chance of success for winning? It looks like that bottom trooper at Jakku is FN 2003, and if that is the case, that could make it pretty tough to take out Luke. Well, I mean, I guess he doesn't have immunity anyway, but it still gives Luke more options if he has that swing, because he can hit and sorry somebody. So you need more dudes than you would otherwise if Finn was there. So Brian Fred thinks about deploying that non-unique trooper on strategic. I think, yeah, I think the line of play for Mischke is ship over to Starkiller Base, and then possibly smugglers later over to Starkiller Base site, whether that's Milos, Chewie. Yeah, and so Snoke comes down there because Fred, he's behind in the damage race, and or at least in the current damage potential. Unless he's canceling drain every turn, and then they're even. So he drops Snoke, who's gonna be able to drain for 2 at the Starkiller Base site, and drops Phasma, who gets him a use pile pull, and I think he'll probably drop the non-unique trooper there as well, and he does, which will give him a second battle destiny. Um, And so now he's doing 6, and probably will pull resistance. And that'll make it 6-6, but he'll be able to cancel 1 at least some of the time, which will make it 6-4. And then once again, the onus will be on Brian to add extra damage. And though, like I said, I think his easy answer to that is Falcon over to the Starkiller base. So I think, despite this turn, I think Watch Your Step's looking good, especially if it can find it's a hit and hold that for Ellis, and keep the grabber open for that. And then if he's holding Run Luke Run, another Smuggler to the Large Farm, and go Smuggler to Large Farm, Falcon over to Starkiller base, and hold dodge, Run Luke Run, it's a hit. So you've got evasion, and I think it will be tough for B. Fred to deal with that, but we'll see. Not you, him.
Oh, yes.
Tell him people want him to be interviewed. All right. Here you go. Have a seat, man. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Where's my microphone? Just right here.
This little piece right there.
Okay.
Can everyone hear Mr. Smoking Gungan? Okay.
Can we get some hype in the chat?
Post if you have any questions for him. What have you been up to, man?
Just wandering the earth. I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anywhere good?
I don't know. I think I'm up to 31 states on playing cards in. So.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What card games most have you been playing?
Well, I've been playing the LCG, but that just ended. So the last tournament ever for that is going to be at Gen Con. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
That game's closing down?
Yes.
Ending? Is that...
And I think they're trying to do a PC for that game. Is that PogChamp?
We get it all caps. Brian Harold come back.
I can't see anything.
Puck,
Clear.
John Anderson.
Uh-oh.
We got the legend Charlie A mentions. Desai says, is solo Sabine viable?
I'd rather do like Sabine hired gun, just because you get that 50-50 on like a resource or a big shot out of it, I think.
Queso asks, who is your favorite forum moderator and why is it El Jefe?
El Jefe. Oh yeah. Any mods still have my avatars I paid for? Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, so it looks, pausing real quick to get back to this game, it looks like they're just trading drains, and it's Mischke's turn. He once again, another drain was canceled with strategic reserves, and then Fred had to send a couple cards to Lost. Right now Fred's ahead in the damage race because Map does that, gets ahead with that early damage, but Mischke's in a pretty good position to start piling on more if he can split up a little more and avoid a beatdown.
So, do people in the chat care if I ask what on earth people are playing right here? I have not.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, whoa, that's a weird. So, watch your step.
Okay.
Are you? When's the last time you played?
I think I played once after the reset.
Once after the reset. Okay. So there's an effect called Like My Father Before Me that makes Jedi Luke God.
Okay, I did play at a Walseth tournament where he gave me a deck and it had that effect.
Yeah,
so, okay.
yeah. So most light decks now play 5 Jedi Lukes. This Watcher Step plays 5 Jedi Lukes. Throne Room plays 5 Jedi Lukes. Hitco is another light mains that plays 5 Jedi Lukes. Anyway, lots of top decks. Not all of them, but a lot. So right here, but it's Watch Your Step with Jedi Luke for the ground, and then Smugglers for space. Pretty. You'd recognize 90% of the cards. The other one is a deck called I Want That Map. It came out in V8 last December, and what it does is it sets up a bunch of First Order troopers and Kylo Ren and Finalizer at the Jakku system, and does a bunch of damage, and then tries to get in trooper beatdowns with trooper assault.
Okay. What is that cool looking location on the far right of the screen?
So that, the picture is the Death Star docking control room, whatever, from the two-player premiere set, but the virtual slip for it is the Starkiller base shield
Okay, and
control room.
that's Starkiller Base, the
Yeah,
system next to it.
right,
Okay.
right. So the map objective can start one Episode 7 location, so it's usually the Starkiller base system that started, and then that can download Starkiller base sites.
Okay, cool.
So Luke just nabbered over to the Starkiller base location, and looks like he played Sorry About the Mess on Phasma, and he Clash of Sabered Snoke. So now he is initiating a battle against the First Order Trooper. Snoke you can kind of see off screen right above the Starkiller base system. Fred just moved him because he was clashed. Oh, and then Fred plays Force Push. I'm guessing he's looking for a Gick here. That he doesn't have one, and he's got a few cards in. Oh, so he didn't find a Force Push, but he found an Ellis. So if Brian has the It's a Hit to cancel that Ellis, that'd be good. If he doesn't have the It's a Hit yet, then that Stormtrooper will likely escape. But Brian needs to first draw Destiny and pay for that before he makes that decision. And the Queso says that's well played. That Force Push into the Ellis might have saved his butt this game. Cam asks you if you have the Death Star orbiting the Death Star 2 at Endor, what happens when the Death Star 2 is blown away?
I don't even remember what happens. I think your Z95s get stuck, as it was what I remember.
Alright, so he does successfully Ellis away, and he's deciding where. He considers over on Tatooine to get an extra drain on his turn, maybe even the farm to drain for 2, and then decides he's too vulnerable there, so he does just send him over to the Jakku site with the whole pile of dudes. And that does, Mischke was really hoping for a big beatdown there, and he had to use Nabber and Clash and Sorry to do all that, burn a lot of his tricks, and Fred was able to escape. So that was a nice little move by him. It looks like it took all his force too. Drew must have drawn high.
I will commend both players for running a goodly number of white border cards too. mad props to them.
They did. Someone wants you to know they removed a shield that prevents blowing planets up. Oh, but then John Anderson says they brought it back. So that was just to get your hopes up for a second and dash them again.
Yeah.
So what's it going to take to get you back playing at a tournament?
We're not on camera, are we?
No, but I can put the webcam on, but apparently it's really grainy.
Okay.
Ever?
Like
Really?
ever.
Never? Brian Harold is not interested in coming back to play the game anymore. He's just showing up to... Are you going to stay tonight and play, like, other games?
Possibly. I guess don't really... should I tell people I don't really have plans tonight? Hanging out in Atlanta?
Cool. Yeah, I think everyone's going to fly down to Atlanta. They weren't planning on coming for this event, but now that you're here...
Okay. Yeah. Well, party on down, everybody.
Alright, so Mischke loses a couple to drains, and then he plays a Rescue in the Clouds. They brought Let the Wookiee Win back, so
Ooh, okay.
so he peeks at 3 cards, and it's not quite the same in that you look at 3 and choose one, same as before, but instead of putting them unused, you put the other 2 back and shuffle your deck, so it's not as good for tracking.
Okay.
But then they added some other insane text that lets you, like, stop Destiny's targeting your dudes at systems, so they can't set for stun people in space. Stops Destiny's targeting people at mobile locations, so QMC can't ever be like Force Lightning choked.
Okay, yeah.
And cancels Close Call.
Okay, didn't have some weird starting option.
It had a starting interrupt that was like
nobody used. Or,
yeah, okay. I think actually Brian Hunter, the year he won Worlds 2009, on day 2 he had a throne room that started the Let the Wookiee Win. And you like played a farm and took it into hand
so
and whatever.
This is a stream where Brian Fred's playing Brian Mischke and you're talking to Brian Harold about Brian Hunter's deck.
Yes. Are there any other Bryants in Star Wars? There's probably a few. Those are the best ones. Dan said, "Wait, Brian Hunter won Worlds."
I got a signed battle plan by him.
Nice. Queso says he sure did. He slept under the table. Wait, the homeless guy won Worlds?
Yeah, that's my plan for here. I'm just gonna sleep under the tables tonight.
That's a good choice.
Hey, Goglin, how you doing?
So P-59 comes down in front of Lando and I think Chewie. Um, and most likely his plan is shoot Chewie, cause some force loss, draw Destiny. I mean, he's outpowered, and Mischke gets 2 Destiny, so he'll probably need more than just P-59 here. But with Brian basically wasting a whole turn and quite a few tricks on Luke, and now Luke's not available for that run Luke run, he's not draining. I think that significantly set him back, and so I don't really like the play. Even if you couldn't see the Ellis coming, all you need to know is if he has. I mean, he might have a Gick. I guess if Mischke verified saw a Gick and a puller, then maybe you make that play. But otherwise, I think the safer play would just be getting a ship over to the Starkiller base. But maybe he can't find a ship either. So he uses Dopeld to relocate Kylo to a resistance character, and Chewie is a resistance character. So Kylo gets to warp over and join P-59 there.
So in general,
Oh, and Dan points out that he thinks Beefred had the Gick anyway. Apparently he saw his hand at some point, or so. Yeah, Mischke's play was quite bold to assume he won't have the Gick, or hope he doesn't. Hey, Tom, did you win? So Tom Haid won his game, the court trooper beatdown deck we were mentioning versus Pete's Watch Your Step that we saw earlier. So Tom is now 6-1 and should qualify for day 2.
so is either player here worried about time, or is this a matchup that you would expect to finish within?
That's a good question. I think it very well could go to time, and Brian Fred particularly, I think is sort of a slow player. He thinks of himself as a pretty fast player, so he might get tilted when he hears me say this. But I think he's gone to time almost every game, or close almost every game today, and he. Yes, so
Okay.
and this is a match where it definitely could.
Okay.
I think if that happens, that's advantage map player because they get more damage in early, and Watch Your
Okay.
Step kind of comes back. So it looks like Brian played Blast the Door Kid, and he's losing one before playing it. I'm not sure why I don't see a first strike on table. Oh, for Snoke. Snoke says if they initiate battle with I thought it was only first order characters, but maybe it's where all your ability is first order, and P-59 obviously does not have ability. I'm going to double check that right now, but I'm betting that's what it is. Alright, did this not update with
I guess you guys
V9?
can't see it, but this is pretty nifty setup we've got going on here. It's amazing.
I don't know why Snoke is not showing up in my search.
As I say that,
As everything goes wrong.
fails. Yeah.
Yeah, no items match your search. Am I spelling that wrong? Snoke? Should be pretty. Nope, I don't know. Alright, well, I'm going to assume it's all cards with ability. He lost one to Snoke, and then he blasted Door Kid to cancel that battle.
Like his origin, his game text of Snoke is a mystery.
Oh, Queso put in the text. If you just initiate a battle where all your ability is provided by first order characters or first order starships, opponent lose 1 force. That's a just. It says if you just initiated though. Does that count as a just action? Like,
Joe looks at me like I have any possible correct answer to
like
that.
can Brian, or is it just an automatic where you have to do that before. Because I mean, first strike is probably worded the same way, and that does have to happen before just actions. But I don't know why that's not also a just action. Maybe because it's not a may. Um, so all right, Mischke's turn. He tunnels. He needs some help here. Right now, the board state. He was able to drain for 3 at Kessel, which it looks like again got blocked. There's a stormtrooper. Brian's got to be running out of those. I think we've seen about 5 or 6 of them now. So pretty soon Mischke will get through drains, but for the moment, that drain's getting canceled, and he's in front of his other 2 dudes. It is at, I believe, the end of this turn that Snoke is going to come back and be available for battling, but Luke's still, for this turn, still just sitting, not doing anything. And, oh no, he did just point at Kessel, so maybe he's, yeah, oh, and a second trooper was stacked, so, so he does cancel the Kessel drain. Mischke goes to play his first interrupt from Lost Pile and pays 1 to try and start about the mess so he can get in a drain of 3 with Luke. So that's a... Fred's thinking about something, sense or something. So he draws a 6/5 and Snoke dies, and so now he can drain 3 unless Fred has resistance out, which I don't think he does. So there's a Sniper Dark Strike, Probot, Barrier, Grand Moff Tarkin. He loses PV. I guess he thinks at this point Light probably doesn't have... I think Brian might have top decked some ships, doesn't really have enough to come at him in space. So that will obviously help Brian. Oh, and then here we go, Falcon, and if with Han, and if that's gonna, the question is now, is Brian gonna try and move over to Jakku to block that train, or go to Starkiller? The problem is if he's too far behind in life force, just running to Starkiller base like this, even if he gets ahead in damage per turn, he may be too far behind in life force. So, but he can't really challenge him at Jakku with what he has right now.
So does Starkiller base have any ability to blow up other locations?
No.
Okay, so that'll be coming soon, is what you're
right. They
saying.
did just add more. They added in a month ago. V9 came out, and it added a Krennic and a Jeddah City where you move over and you blow up the site instead of blowing up a whole system.
That's
so
a
they've got a
start.
new virtual thing that blows up the site, just like in the Rogue One movie. They did a whole Rogue One theme.
Okay. So like you say, bring it back slowly, one side at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, they actually, in playtesting, you lose, like, at one point you lost like 3 per Death Star site on table, so you could get like 6 Death Star sites or something.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And then you could also like deploy generic locations and blow those up to the same system and blow those up and just do a whole bunch of force loss. But they got rid of, it's now just a flat 3 force, and you can't, no generic sites. USA Gamer Girl thinks Brian should contest Kessel, but the problem is it's 2 hyperspeed away, so he'd have to go first to Tatooine and then to Kessel, and then Mischke could just fly straight from Kessel to Jakku and drain there, so he'd just be chasing him, and he'd still just be draining 2 when he's at Jakku, 2 when he's at Tatooine, but he'd be risking getting capped Destiny there, and he has Thrawn, and if he moved to Kessel, then he's just doing the 1, so it's not worth doing multiple moves over to just chase him down and run and sometimes drain him 1, so that's why he's not moving over to block that Kessel drain.
Are those dark side ships, are they scary for a watch your step player? If he started chasing him, would he try and contest in space, or would he run away? What do you think? I mean, obviously, it depends a lot.
Yeah. I think if Mischke had like Outrider and could reduce the power, I mean, it's a Star Destroyer. It's got base power 10. We've got Thrawn on it. 3 more is 13. I think General Hux on it is 3 more, so that's power 16. And then the shuttle with Ozzel is another 5. So we're looking at 21 power and 2 Destiny.
Okay.
If you could get Dash, Outrider, another Smuggler, subtract 9 off that to make it 12 and 2 Destiny, and then you're drawing a couple with, I think you probably would, but I think just Pulsar Skate probably wouldn't stand up to that. So someone came on and said they haven't played a Star Wars game in over 20 years. I would, if that is the case for you, if you haven't played in a long time, you should check out the online site Jump or Gimp, however people pronounce it different ways. Go on the Star Wars PC website and look for links to Jump, and you can play online. And people play old like Premiere New Hope formats, Premiere to Death Star 2 formats, and then the current open meta format. But if you like playing old school games, you can do that. It looks like Mischke at the end of his turn left Chewie and Lando there in the cantina to block the drain, knowing he can do the Blassador Kid from Lost Pile. But now Snoke's going to come down next door so that he can make him lose one to do that again. So what other games have you been playing besides the dying loader game?
Playing Destiny, Star Wars Destiny,
Okay.
the dice game.
How is that?
It's fun. I enjoy it. I was just playing in one today and rolled bad in my first two games, so I went 3-2. But I'm gonna probably play in one tomorrow in Birmingham. So.
How far is Birmingham from here?
I think it's 2 or 3 hours depending on traffic.
Oh, all right. That's neat. So, you realize you don't have to play the game to post on the forums.
Well, that's the worst part, isn't it?
Specifically the moderation?
Oh, man. Oh, man.
I just said that just for queso sauce.
Well, if there are moderators in the chat, then yeah,
Someone
definitely
said
on that.
Mad Cow X just said, is this Harold on commentary?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mad Cow. Get some hype.
Watch out for his disease.
Okay.
Be careful out there.
Okay.
Dan asked if Chewie's still there. Yeah, nothing. There was a Sniper Dark Strike played, or on top of Fred's reserve, so maybe Chewie is dead. Jump is definitely easier to play than Hollow Table if you're a returning player. You don't have to figure out the interface. The cards all highlight what you need to click and legal plays, and all the rules are enforced, and it's a lot of fun. There's free leagues you can join to play against people in whatever format. So Fred is looking like he's maybe thinking about moving some ships, splitting stuff up now that he sees the Falcon on table. He's wondering if the shuttle can embark, I think. And Mischke looks like he's reading the thing and is like, yeah, of course. So then he's moving it, and then he's going to disembark it. That just saved him a force moving over. Dan asks Bfred, did he just forget to battle? He's gonna. He says, "Oh, I shuttle Dopeld before I do that." Did he? I don't know if he forgot to battle Lando. I guess he doesn't have a reserve deck, so he didn't. But if it's just Lando by himself, he probably should have just battled anyway, because he'll outpower him, and he'll have to lose 2 to Kylo and that sort of stuff, or force him to Blassador Kid. Oh no, there is a Blassador Kid on the Watcher Step Shield, so he did play that from Lost. He made him lose 1 to Snoke, and then blasted it. Alright, so apparently there's just under 10 minutes left. Bfred's peeling a bunch because it looks like he's out of generic troopers, so Mischke drains 3, 3, and 2. So that 8 force loss is going to help catch him up. Desai said they shortcutted the battle just because it was... they both knew what was going to happen. Alright, so Mischke's doing 8 there. And then Brian can move over to Kessel, but then Mischke can move down to Jakku, so he'll be doing 7. Yeah, I think Mischke's trying to block. Oh, and he flashes for Outrider, which he doesn't have dash in reserve. It looks like 2 5s maybe. And resistance is out. It's under the step shield. Yeah. Oh no, it's on top of. So it was 2 2 2 was the drains. Apparently Kessel and the Starkiller base site were both 2s. So Fred peeled 6, not 8. All right, so talent card comes down, and Milos, and so Mischke is going to contest this site. He can't eat that drain at 3. And with just P59 and Kylo, oh, nope. Milos runs into a barrier. Door slam shut right in his face. He has... so I believe Mischke initiated a battle, and yeah, Fred loses 2 for weapons display, excluding Milos with that barrier. And then P59 shoots, and he dodges. No, he went with the swing, and he dodged it. So they're -3 each from the dodge. So 7 and 3 is 10, -6 is 4, and Talon adds 2 to each. So that's a miss on whoever he was swinging at. So, yeah, we got a question that who's in the lead? It's hard to tell with Life Force here. I think Brian Fred is, because I think he's just gotten more damage consistently. And he's just canceled so many drains. So he draws a 5. If we count up power, Kylo's a 6. 10, 15, 10. It looks like Light won and was able to clear off both. I think they forgot Snoke's or Kylo's peel 2 to whoever has more power. I'm not sure why he moves from Starkiller to Jakku. I guess to threaten if he moves back. I don't feel like there was a point to moving that out there. But maybe someone will add to add their thoughts. Yeah, clearing that site is really big here, and then the other thing, there is no blaster ping effect. Right now, Brian Fred is going to drain 1 now that the Saber's gone at Jakku site, 1 with Snoke and 2 with the system. So he's going to drain 4 total. And then, he hits a hit, so that's why he moved over. It's only going to save him 1 force, but it's at least used instead of losing a force. So he hits a hits to cancel the 1 drain and eats 3. Kylo comes back down. And some free troopers. First one's free, second one will cost a force. He's debating about doing that or not, or if he wants to save 1 so he can move over to Kessel, because he's going to have to pay 1 to initiate. So he's going to battle Snoke Ping, and basically try and clear off more dudes. Yeah, so the hologram was out, and Lightside won battle. He lost the hologram to take Kylo back. That's how he replayed him. But I think the Lightside won the battle. They just didn't. Oh, the hologram makes it so that he doesn't have to lose force to his own Kylo. Yeah, obviously. That is the other thing it does besides the Jedi's resilience. All right, so we're getting to the end of the game. I'm going to pop over real quick and see if I can look at life force totals. All right, so popping back on. Time is just called, but popping back on. I went over and asked for life force counts, and Mischke had 11. Fred has right around there, maybe just under, but he said to Mischke, "I'll give it to you if we run out of time because I guess he's spent more time this game or whatever." But he's like, "Yeah, no, it's yours if we run to time. I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything I can do." So he knows, yeah, this next turn Mischke's going to do another good chunk of damage, and yeah, so time was just called. Mischke retrieves one with weapons display, activates. He's going to drain. It'll be capped with resistance, so it'll be 2 and 2, and I think that'll probably put him ahead. So yeah, Mischke starting out 1 and 2, and then beats Reed twice, beats whoever he was playing next, and now beats Retwin 316 to move to 5 and 2. That's a pretty strong comeback here in the second half of the day. We're gonna have one more game after this. This is game 7. We'll have game 8, and then I'll update you guys on who the top 8 are, and that'll be posted on the forums, of course, as well. And you can see who we're going to be watching tomorrow. There should be lots of good games, a lot of good players here. So Fred extends a handshake, and Mischke does take that game. I think if I'm analyzing it post game, Maps. It's sort of what I talked about earlier, in that Map can do a lot of strong damage and then peters out if Light can set up and get enough of their own damage. The one Nabrin turn set Mischke back a lot, a whole turn, and put Luke over in a suboptimal position, but then being able to, sorry about the mess, Snoke anyway a turn later, and start draining there made a big difference. Getting Kessel out made a big difference. We saw earlier in the Keith versus Pete game, Pete barely edged that game, but if he had Kessel out, it wouldn't have been close. So getting that Kessel out, doing damage consistently back to Map, and yeah, it does look like Ellis was grabbed at some point. He just handed it back to him. So yeah, that's what you're looking for as a light player, and as a dark player, you want to try and put on as much damage early as possible. And he got to a point where he had put on a lot, but Mischke was able to stabilize and start putting on his own, and it just wasn't quite enough. Fred's start, they both got kind of a slow start with no activation, and then Mischke was able to get out the farm card and start setting up stuff, and yeah, I kind of liked his position better from the initial opening, even though it got to even at that point instead of Map with a slight advantage, and I think from there he was able to take it. So that was a pretty fun game. No. They Justin asked if they missed losing 2 on the Milos barrier, and Fred did peel 2 from his hand. Yeah, so that was that game. I'm gonna stop the recording now, and we'll be getting into game 8 here probably in the next 10 minutes or so.